It's an interesting story. It's nearly 20 years ago. Two key aspects of the Wiggles story. First is that there were a couple of guys who were actually a pop band, very successful in the 1980s in Australia, based in Sydney. And like a lot of bands, after quite a number of years on the road, they disbanded, went their various different ways. And one of those people, Anthony Field, went to Macquarie University to do an early childhood degree. At Macquarie University, he met two other guys, Greg Page and Murray Cook. And through a project at Macquarie University, they had to undertake some music. It was an early child degree. Got together, brought someone else in the studio called Jeff Fatt, who was in the original pop band, which actually was called the Cockroaches, and together created a CD. And that CD became part of a project which probably got them an A+ mark at Macquarie Uni. And naturally, people heard that, various different teachers, preschool teachers, and found that children really liked the music. So it was essentially a combination of music and early childhood. Those four people then became the Wiggles. So that was Anthony Field, Greg Page, Murray Cook and Jeff Fatt. That was nearly 20 years ago. It was really a side project. So the biggest challenge initially, I think, from their point of view, was that they were trying to do other jobs. So they were preschool teachers and doing various different things. I think Jeff was selling PA systems around the place for hire. And so it was really just a project. That was one of the first things. And then the second thing then, when it started to become quite serious, it was a question of who would support them. So going to one or two of the banks, I think probably the answer was definitely no. Various different, four guys in strange costumes, singing and dancing to music for early childhood was an interesting concept. And out of that came live shows, and then they had to turn up and charge people money to come to the shows, and out of that people then wanted merchandise, so they brought a little suitcase, created some merchandise, and of course taking money for that, and of course accounting comes into play then, and that was a long time ago. So it suddenly became a business from something which really was an organic project from uni. It was really, this is going back a long time ago, but I think it was when the ABC actually took them on board and got this music video, and the response was pretty dramatic. From there, other things started to happen, which was a TV show for Channel 7 and then a TV show for Disney. And this was, of course, just in Australia. So the reality was that they were starting to find that people were very interested. But that was very, very early on. It took about 18 years ago. It's important for two reasons. One, clearly it generates a cash flow. It generates funds and money. But at the same time, it also, a critical thing is that people don't think about is it creates exposure. So it gives the impression that the organisation or the brand is doing very well, even because it's on shelf. So if you walk into Tesco or you walk into an Asda or you walk into HMV and you see merchandise and you see the brand there, then the assumption is it's quite large. And that was another critical piece to it. So very, very important. And then the other key factor is related to licensing is that when you actually create, for example, a toy, then of course, home entertainment groups and also TV groups love that because it gives that sense that everyone's in it together. We're very sensitive because we're working with a very sensitive group of people, which are small children. Our focus is very, very clear. Children between the ages of 2 and 5. We don't change from that arrangement at all. So we're very, very sensitive about what we create. For example, when you think about food, which is licensed actually in some parts of the world, when you talk about food, that food has got to be very, very carefully selected. There's got to be standards around the types of food that you create. It's got to be, delicately created so that, for example, sodiums and salts, things like that are actually changed to enable it to be consumed by small children. So absolutely, very, very careful. Live to me is a sort of the evangelical component of what we do. It enables us to get to our audience really right at the grassroots level. So absolutely critical. And then you look at the markets then. So look at product size. Live is definitely the biggest. And then probably still DVD and CD that come second to that. And then from there you can split it down to markets. And in Australia, our home market is still very sizable. Secondly, then look at US, followed very, very closely behind by Canada and the UK. So it's very much split like that. One of the difficult markets we found was Japan. I think essentially it's always very, very slow in actually getting those relationships being built. Probably took about 5 years to get us on TV there, 5 years to prove its worth. And I think Japan's view of it was we wanted to see it work somewhere else first. So that took a while. The first place we did dub the Wiggles was in Italy. And so you needed to prove that for a couple of years. Then they started showing interest. Then they did their research, testing it out amongst groups of children in Japan. And once they felt comfortable about that, they put it on TV. So that's probably the slowest and the longest process that I've gone through so far. I think there are two or three things. Firstly, we absolutely hold true to what we started off to do, which was early child education with music. So we educate through music. Music is a universal language. So children, wherever they may be, take just touring in Hong Kong just last week, children with a Mandarin-speaking background are dancing and moving to the music. It just absolutely captivates them. That's one key thing. And secondly, I think that when you take parents actually believe and trust in what it is we do. So it's high integrity. What you see is what you get. And when you're dealing with children, you can't be dishonest. Children see through that. So I think those are the major components. We were very fortunate in Australia. I think that Australia had a very, very strong balance sheet itself, a very, very strong economy. The banks are very, very strong over there, and we have this thing called a natural resource, which a lot of countries wanted when everyone else was struggling. Of course, there is a high cost of the banking system over there. But nevertheless, that was something that was very, very strong for us. So Australia was very strong. America, yeah, we definitely felt that. I mean, I think that people's discretionary capacity to come to shows certainly was shown in a number of the smaller cities. In the larger cities, not so, but definitely in the smaller cities. My background's an interesting one. It's certainly not one that you would actually think of when you're looking at someone who's running or certainly the custodian of an organisation like this. Strange enough, I started off in healthcare in the UK, so I trained in healthcare management, trained at Bart's Hospital, then King's College Hospital in Denmark Hill in London, moved up to Blackpool to plan healthcare there, and then ended up working for Ernst & Young, where I became a healthcare consultant. From there, moving to pharmaceuticals and various different companies associated with healthcare. I think the Wiggles was already a very beautiful project, something that had already got success in Australia. I think where the challenge that they were going to face was how do they actually make it global. And what I probably brought to the Wiggles were systems, structures, ability to get into a boardroom at a very high level and to speak the language of a boardroom, to speak the language of business, to be able to understand how you actually convert this amazing idea to something which was available for business and could bring benefits to major corporations such as Disney's and Viacoms and Comcast and those sorts of things. It's a really exciting future. I mean, the entertainment industry is changing dramatically. The TV world's changing dramatically. There's new technologies which enable TV to be broadcast all around the world very quickly. We've just seen Apple release the iPad. So now we're actually looking at how do we actually develop applications for the iPad. We're developing applications for iTunes and for the iPod. We're looking at how we digitize our content to deliver it onto Internet Protocol TV platforms around the world. That's what people are expecting. They're expecting people to deliver content much quicker now. So those are the sorts of things we're delivering very, very quickly. I think the one thing is a really interesting one, because the one thing that I've learned is that we really enjoy what we're doing. I think that the business success has followed the actual passion for what it is we do. That's a critical thing. And I would say that if you're actually going to start a business or involved in business, you're going to be absolutely passionate in what you do. That's the thing that I've learned mostly. If they want to find out something about the Wiggles, they go onto the wiggles.com website or wiggletime.com, and they can find everything out about where we are. We're going to be playing all around the UK over the next few weeks. We're very excited about that.